There we go. Well, hello everybody. This is Philip Martin, and this is on film for July 16th, 2021, in the year 2021. Yeah, here we are. And the big news this weekend is Space Jam: A New Legacy. No, it's not. Not really. I mean, I really think this is a little bit more like the glorified Tom and Jerry cartoon that came out earlier this year than it is anything else. As far as it goes, I don't hate Space Jam. I really like LeBron. I would have liked to see him do something different than this, but I understand that Warner Brothers is doing. They're looking for a big hit and they want a big family friendly movie. I don't quite understand what this is for, and I don't quite understand their strategy here, in that we really tried to get a review copy to see a screener and review it, which I don't know. I don't know if that helps them, but it's sure not going to hurt them if we write, a nasty review of it. I mean, it's just not going to. And it is going to be out on HBO Max and, in theaters today. And people are going to write about it. It's not going to be, a secret movie that. But I just don't get this, marketing strategy of not showing your big movie to the press. When it's perfectly okay if you don't want to. I mean, you're under no obligation to do that, I don't guess. In fact, if we really want to go back to it, what I'd really like the model being entirely different. I really wish we didn't concentrate so much on opening day reviews. I really kind of wish that we were back in the 40s and 50s, and we would run the review a week or two after the movie opened. And we wouldn't review every movie, of course, and we wouldn't, probably mess around with something like Space Jam, except as, there are reasons to write about it, but it's more a business story. It's more a story about the maturation and evolution of LeBron James as a business person, I think, than it is about anything that a movie critic would care about. I also think you have a Looney Tunes kind of story there, an essay about how Looney Tunes is being exploited, and just the way it's changed, and just the way that the market works on our culture. I do think there's interesting things about it, but I don't think that I can sit there with a straight face and say that I really think that anybody needs to see Space Jam. If you want to see it, fine. You want to see Don Cheadle hamming it up, you want to see LeBron as a cartoon character, that's fine. And, if it's something that your kids like, well, okay. I don't have any brief against the damn thing. I just, like I said, I don't understand why it's so hard to see it. It came out in Australia like last week or 2 weeks ago, I think. I don't know exactly. And the reviews are in from Australia, so I can look at the reviews from Australia, and I quote them in my new movies column. And, I think it's a little bit, heavy-handed to slap something like this around, because why? It's not supposed to be good in the ways that movie critics find movies good or bad. It's supposed to be what it is, and I'm sure it does a fine job of brand proliferation and synergy and making connections between the stars and the corporations that are driving this thing. And I really shouldn't worry about it. I worry about it because of your expectations, the expectations of everybody out there. And maybe I shouldn't even have those anymore, because nobody really tells me what to do as far as our movie section is going. I don't get notes on it, which is really nice. It's really a very privileged and, kind of cool situation to be in, that we can just put this thing out every week. And no one's going to really say, well, why didn't you do this? Or why did you do that? And why didn't you do this? And this doesn't fit with what you're supposed to do. And so, that's really grateful. I'm really grateful for that situation. At the same time, I can't help but be the convention bothers me because the convention is that the big movie this week is Space Jam. And we don't really have anything on Space Jam. If we had room, I did find an OK Wire story about it that we may or may not have at the section because we haven't gotten down to the shopping time where we get rid of stuff that we don't have room for. So it's on the schedule. It's on our budget to have that in there. So there may be... Yes, here we go. It's been a while since we've had a visitor, but anyway, we do. And I'm just going to keep talking through this because I don't want to do this again. Anyway, so Space Jam is the movie. But it's not the movie for us because we didn't see it. And you can't really write about movies you haven't seen, though I know people try to. So what are we going to do? It's like this Space Jam week, and there's no Space Jam review, and we can't review it. And it's just like, what? And there's this little movie, Pig. And maybe there was a little bit of a thing about Pig a couple weeks ago. I mean, we made fun of it on the radio. And I said that it was probably, the trailer was definitely going to be better than the movie. And the trailer is very good. But the movie is really good. And I didn't expect it because, it's Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage hasn't really done anything that I've been impressed with. I know some people liked him in Mandy. Since 2013, when he did Joe, the Larry Brown book that was adapted by David Gordon Green, which I thought was a really good performance. I thought it was a really strong movie, and I was really glad that you could see that Nicolas Cage could do this. And I don't know why Nicolas Cage does the stuff he does these days. He's made 70 movies in the 21st century, 108 his career. And they say, the tabloid stuff says, well, he needs cash. He's got to keep working because he's got all this debt. He's all these houses. He's got dinosaur heads. Maybe he's not good with money. I don't know. But maybe he just likes to work. I tend to like to work. I tend to write a lot. I tend to write more than I would have to, more than the bare minimum. I certainly do more work than is required to, keep my job, I think. I'm not going to test that, but, I don't really have anything against Nicolas Cage for doing a lot of work, but he has worked in a lot of bad movies. I have never seen him give an uninteresting or dull performance, but he's given some over-the-top performances. He's given some performances that are irritating. Paris! Thank you. Oh, come on in here, girls. Well, anyway, I think there's people working outside because that's what... Okay. Ignore the little voices. There's no one else here but me. I can't, leave this and go talk to them without having to start over because that's the program I use. I just like to do this in one take. Anyway, so, I would, Nicolas Cage is a good actor. I mean, he's really good in a lot of roles. In Leaving Las Vegas, he was wonderful. I loved him in, his first real role, which was Valley Girl. In fact, I was talking about that the other day. I was like, I almost really wrote a book about Valley Girl. I really think that was a underrated, kind of important, kind of fun movie. It's got a lot of stuff in it. Deborah Foreman's Overbite, which was, a good name for a rock band. I don't know whatever happened to Deborah Foreman. I hope she's still around and I hope she's well. But I really liked that movie. I really liked a lot of his work, and I remember I went to Los Angeles when they were doing Con Air, and I interviewed him. And if you remember Con Air, he played a character called Cameron Poe. And Cameron Poe was this southern guy from Tennessee. And, I'm not one to slag off on actors' accents a lot. I think that usually they're pretty good. You can. Nicolas Cage sounded like somebody from Tennessee to me. Now, other people will go, but I'm talking to him about his character. I'm talking to him about the Southern guy, and I guess that, in that situation, maybe I do present as Southern more than I might in other situations. I mean, I think I never sound more Southern than when I'm in New York City, you know. And in this situation, I'm talking to him about it, and I ask him about portraying a Southern guy. And he got a little defensive. But he was also very thoughtful. And he was talking about how he admired these guys who, like lived like Cameron Poe, that, had a pickup truck and, and all this. And I wrote about that in my book, The Artificial Southerner, if you can still find it, which University of Arkansas Press. Plug for me. I'm not so shameless that I have a copy of the book to show you here, because I don't have a copy of the book right in this house. It's at the office. I've got one, so don't worry about that. But anyway, and so it's sort of that I owe that whole kind of idea, the mask of Southernness that you can put on and slip off. I kind of owe that to Nicolas Cage, because I was thinking a lot about the way he played Cameron Poe, in that Cameron Poe, which is also close to Cameron Crowe, which, we just did the big Almost Famous thing, so, that's it, just running around in my mind. But for whatever reason, Cage is what he is, and he's become this sort of mythic, figure, this sort of mythic, holy, crazy guy who wanders around and does all these, strange movies like Bad Lieutenant and Bad Lieutenant Portical, and eats bugs on screen and things like that. But he's really a good actor. He's got a good skill set, and he's a big screen presence. I mean, if you watch him in Pig, which I mean to say, there's a review right there, so don't, read the review. But it's a really good movie. It's not what you think it might be, which you might think it was going to be one of those sort of so bad it's good movies, or one of those movies that is a little too clever, that invest a lot in having a name like Cameron Crowe above the title. Cameron Crowe, Cameron Poe, Nicolas Cage above the title. It's sort of like, it's definitely a Nicolas Cage movie. It is a showcase for him. He plays this Rasputin-y chef, former celebrity chef, who's out in the woods because he's been driven away from, the company of humans, and you can understand why if you spend any appreciable time around humans. And it's with a lesser actor or a lesser vision. The director, whose name escapes me now, it's in the review, really has a very strong visual sense, and I credit his cinematographer that too, but it looks good, it feels good. There is not this over-explaining, this overtness that goes into a lot of American Hollywood films. It's a much subtler thing than that. Now, I'm not saying it's the best film of the year. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about that I thought it was going to be like something like Fat Man, which is this Mel Gibson Santa Claus movie, Santa Claus action movie. And I thought it was going to be, okay, it's going to goof on itself. It's going to be very meta. It's going to have these cutesy things in it. And it really doesn't. It's really restrained and poetic. And did not see it coming. Didn't expect it. Saw the trailer. Thought the trailer was great. It was, there was Nicolas Cage going, "Give me back my pig." No, he doesn't say that, but it's like, that's the reference to Mel Gibson and Ransom, the, over the top. "Give me back my son. Give me back my pig." That's the sort of thing I thought it was going to be, which is why you watch the things before you write about them, even though some people don't. I'm not going to. It's just sort of like, so Pig saves us this week, because there's not much else. There's Pig, and there's Escape Room, which is a sequel to a movie I didn't even know existed, which made a lot of money, and so some of you are into that. Some of you are into, you're going to be into the Space Jam. All right, I get it. Fine. It's not like we all have to like the same things. I do think that we have to kind of justify our taste to ourselves. So, I do think you ought to think about the stuff that you consume, the stuff that you put in your brain. I do think to a large extent we are what we consume. But I'm not going to worry about Space Jam. I mean, it's what it is. It's a beach ball movie like Avatar. You can get worked up about it if you want. There's plenty of reasons to talk about corporate greed, talk about Warner Brothers, marketing department and merchandise, all the stuff they can do with it. Yeah, that makes me tired. I mean, that's something that people do. I mean, it's like, okay, it has nothing to do with what I want to do, which is write about what these things mean in their lives. Well, it has something to do with it, but that's basically, I've just said what it has to do with it. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to buy it. So Warner Brothers, that's fine. You don't want to show us Space Jam, that's fine. But, I don't get the strategy because we're going to write about it anyway, if we want to write about it. So, there. Well, what else I've got? Oh, it's like I've also got a little bit on My Darling Clementine, which I think I've talked about last week, or maybe not, which I showed in my live quiz class, which now would be yesterday for you, even though it's 2 days in the future for me. So, it's a good section. I haven't seen it yet. Can't wait. See you next week. Bye.